Hi, everyone. Thank you all for taking the time to watch this presentation and for signing up as a language exchange tutor. This program wouldn't be possible without all of you, so your participation is greatly appreciated. Also, this presentation will be available to you all through our website if you would like to rewatch it. This is the LE coordinating team for spring 2023. My name is Fiona and I use the pronouns she, her, hers. I'm currently a senior studying psychology and linguistics, and this is my second year as an LE coordinator.
My name is Vivian and I use pronouns she, her, hers. I'm currently a junior studying sociology and communication arts, and this is my first year as an LE coordinator. We both oversee matching and running the LE email, so feel free to reach out if you ever have any questions or concerns.
This is a brief summary of our agenda. First, we'll be discussing who we are, what GUTS does as an organization, and what tutoring with LE specifically entails responsibility-wise. We will also cover good tutoring practices and finish up with cultural awareness and inclusion practices to ensure that your group feels comfortable with one another.
So first, let's start with who we are as an organization. GUTS, or Greater University Tutoring Service, is a student organization that began in 1974 and works to provide students with free tutoring, volunteer and peer tutoring opportunities, and leadership opportunities through student staff. Our team, which is comprised of both students and professional full-time staff members, is divided into academic, language, and study support services. LE falls under the language category. If you're interested in any other tutoring opportunities with GUTS, make sure to check out our website at guts.wisc.edu.
If you want to conduct online tutoring, you can run your sessions through one of these platforms. However, in order to comply with FERPA regulations around the protection of student information, you can only use a university-approved platform such as the ones on this slide. If anyone is interested in extra training in any of these platforms, feel free to reach out to us to set up an individual training session. If none of these platforms work for you and your group needs to meet online, let us know what alternative platform you plan on using.
Now we'll move on to the details regarding our program specifically and what we expect from our participants. The language exchange program allows you to learn a foreign language while teaching a language you're fluent in. For example, if you're fluent in Japanese and you want to practice your Spanish skills, we will match you with a fluent or proficient speaker of Spanish who wants to learn Japanese. Due to the nature of this exchange, both participants will engage in tutor and tutee roles. Since this program requires an exact language match to be paired with another student, we recommend also checking out our World Language Learners program for those looking to practice a non-English language, or our Conversational English program for those looking to practice English. You can check out these other programs on the GUTS website.
Here's a brief overview of how this exchange will work after being successfully matched into pairs. You and your partner will meet for a minimum of 2 hours a week, 1 hour for each language being practiced. During these meetings, you will focus on whatever aspects of language that you wish to improve. Outside of these weekly meetings, our program, often with the World Language Learners program, will host program events for you to meet other participants and engage in fun activities.
Once you are matched, it's important to first contact your partner using the contact information provided in the matching email. In this email, you can discuss where and when you will meet weekly. If your partner doesn't respond to you or there are issues with scheduling, feel free to reach out to us so that we can rematch you with another participant. At your first session, we ask that you fill out your tutor-tutee contract together. This is an important document that lets us know that your group has met and has set up a basis for future meetings. We require that all participants send it in within 2 weeks of meeting for the first time. After your session, please have one of your group members fill out the attendance sheet. After this training, we'll match you with your group members. This matching email will include contact information and important documents like the tutor-tutee contract, attendance sheet, and post-training survey. As the semester progresses, we'll send out updates regarding social events and check-in forms.
In order to ensure that groups are meeting, we ask that you fill out an attendance sheet. In case you weren't able to meet with your group, please fill out the report anyway to show that the session was canceled. Feel free to bookmark this form and use the last 5 minutes of your tutoring session to fill out this document. Specifically, if you're interested in letters of recommendation and/or volunteer hours, we need to refer to these reports, so make sure to fill them out. In case you lose the email with this report, you can find it on the LE website. Attendance, although very important for this program, is flexible. So if anything suddenly comes up in the way of emergency situations, illness, pre-planned events, religious holidays, and/or exams, communicate this to your partner as soon as possible to let them know of this conflict. In the instance that a group member has more than 2 unexcused absences, they will be removed from the group and replaced. So make sure to keep up with the attendance sheet.
If you have any questions or concerns, feel free to contact us. We prefer you email us at the LE email since we check this during our office hours, but you can also email us separately at our individual Gmail accounts. If you want to talk to someone at GUTS other than us, you can contact our supervisor, Suthi. She would definitely be willing to help with anything you need, especially if you have any issues regarding discrimination or harassment. You can also talk to us or other GUTS staff members in person at our office at 333 East Campus Mall in the Student Activity Center. Our office is in room 3111, down the hallway off to the left of the help desk.
Now we're going to move on to good tutoring practices. Since this is an asynchronous session, we ask that you think about these questions to better understand how to implement cultural awareness. Feel free to pause the video here to think through your answers.
First meetings are important to establish a comfortable environment for both participants. So here is a suggested timeline of how your first session can run. First, you should introduce yourself to your partner. When your partner introduces themselves to you, make sure you pronounce tutees' names correctly. There are a lot of international student tutees, and some might be using their given name, and some might prefer if you call them by their English name. If you're unsure about how to pronounce your partner's name, just ask. It's also good to discuss with your partner both long-term and short-term goals about the language to better direct the sessions. Some other questions that are helpful to cover include: what are your partners interested in improving upon? Pronunciation, grammar, or slang? Are there any topics you would like to expand your vocabulary and become more comfortable talking about or are interested in? Are there any topics you would like to avoid? Next, it's important to ask your partner what kind of tutoring, what style of tutoring they prefer. Some people prefer flexible meeting times while others prefer a schedule. As long as you are meeting weekly, this shouldn't be an issue. Make sure you are conscious of the correction styles you use for your partner, and make sure you discuss with the partner what style of correction would be most beneficial to their learning.
In general, it's important to meet people where they are and correct your expectations to match the level that your group members are operating at. You can achieve this by listening, observing, and connecting to your partner during your tutoring sessions. You should also work to make your partner comfortable and get as much out of the experience as possible. This comfortable environment can be created by frequently checking in with your partner to assess comprehension, allowing breaks, using inclusive language, and minding personal space when meeting. As we mentioned before, tutoring is an exchange. So we just ask that you try and make sure that your partners are receiving as much of a benefit as you are. Finally, if you have any questions about accommodating your partner, feel free to email us.
LE is a program that works to connect people from various backgrounds and cultures, so it is important to recognize that there is a large amount of diversity within our tutoring groups. Although this volume of diverse cultures provides a great opportunity for learning, it can also lead to some cultural clashes among members. Keeping this in mind, we've included this section to help create safe and comfortable environments for people while tutoring.
Here is a short video illustrating the idea of implicit bias.
What is implicit bias? Implicit bias is an attitude someone has, either positive or negative, without being aware of it. They're developed over a lifetime of exposure from other people and the media, and usually, these assumptions drive people's actions. These unconscious assumptions are often about race, gender, age, sexual orientation, and religion. An example: in one study, a group of doctors said they didn't have a bias toward people of color. But 2/3 were found to have an implicit bias against Black people and Latinos. This bias showed up in how the doctor communicated with the patient and whether the doctor showed concern for the patient. And this bias affected the care these patients received. In some cases, doctors recommended different treatment plans based on the patient's race or gender, which can impact health outcomes for those patients. We may be unaware of our own biases, but we need to work on recognizing and changing them to have a more equitable society.
Now we're just going to review some of the ideas from the video. First, implicit bias is defined as mental associations based on race, gender, and other social categories that may lead to discrimination without intent or possibly awareness. We specifically want to emphasize the part that states that this form of bias operates unconsciously, so it's not the same as explicit bias, which can be exhibited through overt open discrimination, like using racial slurs or refusing service. Even though someone believes that they aren't biased as it goes against their values, chances are they probably have many implicit biases which are deeply ingrained in their way of thinking.
Although implicit biases occur unconsciously and may seem like less of a threat than explicit biases, they can still affect your actions and words, so it's important to recognize them and combat them to make your tutoring sessions more comfortable for all members. First, it's important to note that replacing stereotypes with non-stereotype responses takes practice and is by no means an easy or quick process. Doing this requires seeing each individual as unique from their category by obtaining relevant information regarding who they are as individuals. Our minds tend to fill in missing data with stereotyped information, so getting to know your group members would counteract this process. We also recommend that you increase opportunities for contact by deliberately engaging in authentic relationships with people in different social groups. It's also helpful to perceive variability within social groups, since every group contains a variety of traits. Finally, we want to remind you, believing that you are unbiased is not beneficial. Everyone is biased in some way, so acting like you aren't can actually lead to more stereotype-based judgments. It's also counterproductive to suppress stereotypes by claiming you are colorblind or gender blind or anything like that. Consciously avoiding thinking about stereotypes can actually create rebound effects, causing an increase in the application of bias. However, if you just accept that the proposition that we all have bias without striving to reduce it, stereotyping can increase because we have normalized harmful behavior.
Another key part to building cultural awareness is looking out for microaggressions. These are statements, actions, or incidents in which people, either intentionally or unintentionally, discriminate against people based upon their marginalized group membership. Although these might not seem harmful, they can damage a person's self-esteem and trust in you. Be constantly vigilant in your words and action during this cultural exchange.
These are some examples of microaggressions that you should be aware of during tutoring. Although these may not seem that harmful, they can negatively affect your tutoring environment and make your partner feel uncomfortable. So make sure to avoid these situations.
If you witness your partner using microaggressions against you, there are plenty of ways for you to respond. If you prefer addressing the issue immediately, feel free to interrupt the behavior and call attention to the microaggression. We've outlined some ways that you can do this, but feel free to utilize whatever method is most appropriate for the situation. If you would prefer a less confrontational approach, you can always talk with the person who used the microaggression after the session. If you feel uncomfortable or believe that this is a pretty major issue, feel free to reach out to us or the senior language coordinator.
There is also a possibility that you might be on the receiving end of microaggressions. Again, you can respond in a confrontational or non-confrontational way, depending on what you're comfortable with. We've outlined some methods on this slide, but feel free to address it in whatever way you feel is appropriate.
Thank you again for watching this video, and we hope you have a successful time tutoring. Once again, feel free to reach out with any questions and/or concerns.
If there's anything you think could be improved in this presentation, please scan this QR code and let us know.
Finally, to show us that you've watched this training, please fill out this post-training quiz, which you can access by scanning this QR code. Thank you.
Thank you.